you know, the corporate interests in this country, the corporate interests, the lobbyists who have been taking over our government. I'm talking Democrats and Republicans. Big money interests, and the tech bros, the oligarchy. I mean, our middle class has been squeezed out nearly of existence, right? And they want to take over. If this isn't totally clear to everybody by now, I don't know what you're smoking. It's not good enough, apparently. They want to take over. And it's going to help if they have consent to do this. And that's what MAGA is for. MAGA is their consent. Do you understand that? That's why they're the ones that are arguing with us in our comments about due process. We say due process. They say, but he's a wife beater. But we say it's not about that. It's about due process. Oh, but he's a wife beater. And you know, his 2 of those kids aren't even, 3 of those kids aren't even his. Are they? Because I heard that the real father, who cares? Who cares? I don't give a fuck about what's going on with his with his step kids or his real kid. 2 of those kids are his, by the way, and the newest one. I mean, one of those kids is his. The newest kid is his. 2 of them are from a previous marriage. Not that that matters. They want to take over. And if you don't believe me, you can hear it straight from Curtis Yarvin, who is their guru. That's J.D. Vance's only boss ever, the gay venture capitalist Peter Thiel. And he's the one that created Palantir. Man, if you guys don't understand that this is the big plan, that's why I'm trying to tell you here. Yarvin sees American democracy as a failed experiment, one that's been taken over by oligarchy and whose only salvation is a form of American monarchy. This is why they picked Trump. Yarvin says, there's just no world in which you can do this without electing a president who says, I am the chief executive of the executive branch. I am going to reinvent the executive branch, and the way I'm going to do it is simply by working around the one we have and creating a new one, which has all the power. As for the people we have, they'll be retired. That's what Yarvin says, and that's what they're doing. So these people, they asked Curtis Yarvin for an interview. He did not respond. His ideas, though, have found willing minds among some younger conservatives, especially those whose own experience winds through Silicon Valley, as J.D. Vance's does. Here's Vance in 2021 on the podcast Jack Murphy Live. There's this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's written about some of these things, a lot of concerns that said we should deconstruct the administrative state, we should basically eliminate the administrative state. And I'm sympathetic to that project, but another option is that we should just seize the administrative state for our own purposes. I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state. Replace them with our people. And when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say, the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it. Remind you of anything? Again, that was J.D. Vance in 2021. Now, Vance has never said that he's an unquestioning acolyte of Yarvin's, but Yarvin's ideas do have a stickiness to them. Yarvin also coined the term the cathedral, by which he means elite academic and media institution that he believes sets the bounds of acceptable discourse, and by doing so, distort reality to amplify their own power. Or, in Yarvin's telling, the cathedral is essentially the reification of the legitimate sources of information. So the cathedral is essentially performing the functions that a ministry of truth would perform in a classic Orwellian environment. And it's performing the functions that a religion would in a classic theocracy. Then, let's hear it again. Here's J.D. Vance in 2021. So much of what we want to do in this movement and in this country, I think, are fundamentally dependent on going through a set of very hostile institutions, specifically the universities, which control the knowledge in our society, which control what we call truth and what we call falsity, that provides research that gives credibility to some of the most ridiculous ideas that exist in our country. And we have to honestly and aggressively attack the universities in this country. That's J.D. Vance in 2021. Curtis Yarvin has also been called the high priest of the Dark Enlightenment, and his view of U.S.'s future does get apocalyptically, apocalyptically dark. Yarvin says, "You're clearly, from my perspective, looking very much at a fall of the Roman Republic event here in a best case scenario. Worst case scenario is more like the fall of the Roman Empire." Yarvin believes that democracies inevitably devolve to systems that shore up oligarchies, and that those oligarchies maintain power by claiming a tyranny of the majority. The only way out? An American Caesar to bring the failed corrupt system back into line. Here's how J.D. Vance puts it again in 2021. We are in late republic. We're very clearly close to a point where the people don't have nearly as much power. The oligarchy has seized most of it. We are in late Republican period. If we're going to push back against it, we have to get pretty wild and pretty far out there and go in directions that a lot of conservatives right now are uncomfortable with. Yeah, that's him in 2021. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? But the new right is a group of writers, thinkers, politicians, activists who came together in the aftermath of Trump's election in 2016 to figure out what was next for American conservatism. American conservatism for so long has been understood as this alliance between free market libertarians, foreign policy hawks, and social conservatives. Trump, of course, came into power rejecting two of those three major pillars: foreign policy hawkishness and economic libertarianism. And there was an enormous question in the aftermath of his election of what would take its place. The new right were the people who entered this space that Trump opened up to chart the future of the conservative movement.